Hello, good people. This is Dominique back at you with season two of Artist on Artist. Well, tonight, you guys, I have a very special guest. This guest, you may or may not know her. You probably may have seen her on social media and various other places wherever her music is streamed and sold. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the one, the only, just make sure I get this right, ZD REDSPARK.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, welcome, ZD REDSPARK. How are you tonight?
I am doing very well. I can't complain right now. There's really beautiful weather out here on the East Coast right now, so loving it.
Awesome. Well, for those who do not know who you are, why don't you explain a little bit about who you are, what it is that you do, and then we'll keep it going.
Well, honestly, I really refer to myself as, and I know this may sound pretentious at times, but a lyricist more than, rapper, hip hop artist, whatever the typical expression for that would be. Not to say that I'm better or worse than anyone else, but at the same time, I have been making music since 2005, and I've also my educational background academically is in sound engineering. So I sort of integrated that with, the classical training that I had received on various instruments, bass guitar, et cetera, things that I've taught myself, keys before, things of that nature. And I got really inspired one day, probably into like 2016, 2017, by various artists, Prince Cat Eyes being one of them, a few others. Who else was out at that time? Gosh, I am blanking on a lot of these artist names, but I fondly remember the music. At least the music was, insane. So I do remember that much.
That's awesome. And Prince Cat Eyes is also a very good friend of mine. So, very awesome, dude. That's a cool connection to have. But next thing I actually want to get into is your overall sound. Like I listened to some of your music. I actually listened to your most recent, what you call it, a mixtape or an album.
I released like a full length in January and then like an EP in February, I believe.
Yeah, so I got to listen to a few of your songs. I just want to know, like, how do you write? What is your writing process? What is your thought process when you begin to make a song?
I base most of it off of, and this goes down cliche, I know, but personal life experience, and a lot of it does have to do with how I've been, pardon my language, fucked over by the psychiatric system, by the mental health system in general. And there's a lot of hypocrisy that I feel is going on in not just the entertainment industry, but also a lot of these industries, I guess the helping professions, like the people on the front line of this pandemic. And I've dealt with a lot of people in those industries that should probably not be in them. They've been very antagonistic towards me and very disrespectful. Sorry, I'm a bit under the weather. I apologize.
No, that's all good. I was under the weather myself. I actually had COVID for a
couple wow.
So I'm just now kind of getting back to normal, per se. So no, you are all good.
I'm pretty sure it's not COVID.
No, it probably isn't, but you never know. You gotta take care of yourself, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Yep. So, but back to the music. Your EP. I'm sorry. Actually, let's talk about your full length. Let me. I'm kind of skipping around here. Sorry. Let's talk
Okay.
about your full length Cartilage. What was the initial inspiration behind that project, and why the title Cartilage?
Um, that's because that's my last name. Not to dox myself, but it's on Facebook and social media, so I'm not too concerned about that anyway. Sorry, I'm waiting on a really random moment. I'm waiting on a DoorDash order. So I'm checking my phone. I'm not trying to be rude. Uh, as far as the name Cartilage is concerned, I came up with that based off of I've sort of had a hiatus from music for about 5, 6 years after a pretty lengthy mental health crisis, sort of one right after the other, right after the other. And I noticed, and goes back to um, dealing with certain professionals, but that was the time that I dealt with the majority of those, you know, I don't know if I would call them transgressions, but I guess trials and tribulations, if you will, that really contributed to a mindset of really needing to in my opinion, take advantage of the First Amendment and really get creative and insightful with my music and really just hammer the point down that I've dealt with enough bullshit from society at large and really getting my voice out there, like just, nailing the coffin as far as the actual, main, just no bullshit, no compromise message that I wanted to deliver.
All right. Well, definitely felt that throughout the project. From what I heard, you are definitely expressing yourself, and I think that's really good. I think especially as out artists, we typically don't really get to express ourselves in that manner. So I think that is very awesome. Jack, be quiet.
Aww.
Sorry, my dog is barking. Jack. Anyway, sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, normally
dogs are awesome, and cats too. So,
but normally Jack is not here. Well, I'm actually at our other house in
right.
Colorado, so he's normally not here when I do these things. But,
yeah.
Jack. Anyway, sorry y'all, but yeah, definitely. I do hear that freedom of speech vibe. I got that just from listening to your lyrics. And so my next question, rolling into just your overall production process. Your production is very interesting. What do you do, like, with your vocals and everything, to get the sound that you get?
I am. Well, I mean, I'm trained professionally. I went to school for it, for sound production, and I use a lot of the training that I received through that to really put an emphasis on sort of an experimental sound that was sort of avant-garde, if you will, sound I'm going for, a la, Aesop Rock, etc. Artists that are really, just like I said before, extremely lyrical and conscious and insightful, and I really want to capture that as much as I can through my projects. And with Cartilage especially, a lot of the writing for that, like I said before, was heavily derived from personal experience dealing with the darker side of these industries that claim that they can help and assist, not to put any sort of generalization on it. I would never do that. But at the same time, I do think there are, darker, I guess, sides of that story as well, unfortunately, for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah. And would you say that your EP, Insomnia Ballads, was kind of like a mirror of that in a way?
Yeah, I absolutely, I would say that. I mean, Insomnia Ballads, the name pretty much is self-explanatory. I wrote a lot of it while I could not sleep, despite all of the, Delta 8 in the world. Still cannot sleep, even when I was on meds like Seroquel and things of that nature before. Like, I still couldn't sleep no matter what. And a lot of this EP was inspired by a lot of the racing thoughts that were going through my head. And I just sort of based it off that. So it's really like a dreamscape of everything in my dreams and subconscious, I guess, that manifested themselves through that project lyrically.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. And I do like that you basically made an entire project, I would say in real time, as you're not able to sleep. And I like that you were able to channel that energy into something creative. And that's super awesome to me. I love people who can do that. And you never know, like listening to insomnia ballads, I think there are many other people who can relate to you, in that. And so I hope that after this, those people go and look, go listen to insomnia ballads and find themselves and find some sort of connection with that project. And the same for Cartilage. But definitely, I like both projects. Both projects were very interesting. Very interesting listen, and I would, definitely suggest to other people that they listen as like I said, hopefully you all can find a connection within one of these projects. But ZD REDSPARK, do you have anything else coming up musically, or anything else that you're working on, or?
Gosh, musically, I do have something coming up probably at the end of April called Bad Luck, Good Luck. And a lot of that is also sort of the leftovers, I guess, from the EP that I needed to hammer out more a little bit. I needed to really sort of tweak the sound on a lot of those songs and sort of like, what's the word for it? Refine, I guess, the writing for it. So not quite completed yet.
Okay. Well, that's good. And, and I always tell people, and I know we've, spoken about this in conversations, that, don't feel like you have to rush a project out. And this is for all artists. Don't ever feel like you have to rush a project out, because you always want to make sure that it's something that is your best. You always want to put your best foot forward. And so, I definitely, I know it sounds like a broken record, but I'll always say, definitely do not rush, and just take your time. And, I do hope that project comes out very soon, though. And I'm looking forward to listening to that one as well. So you spoke a little bit about mental health. And so I will say this is something that I think in the LGBTQ community, and I can also say for the Black community as well, that we do not speak about this in its purest form. We don't ever really talk about this in its purest form ever. And I think when I say the purest form, I mean that we don't actually share the truth about what we're dealing with in terms of mental illness, in terms of mental health. So what has your journey been with mental health, and how are you dealing now?
Oh my gosh. I'm about to get really vulnerable with this, but it has been difficult, to be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It's been extremely hard to deal with the stigma of it, as many people admit as well. It's difficult to have people that have some sort of power or authority over you that may not have your best interest at heart and just want to throw medications at you. I know not all doctors are like that, but I have dealt with enough of them to know that you're like in and out of there in less than 5 minutes with a script for, a bunch of random stuff that, interacts with other things the wrong way, and they're not the right meds for the diagnosis and et cetera, et cetera. I've heard of that all the time, and I've dealt with it personally. So that is something where it's been difficult trying to figure out what works best for me. I do know that currently I have a psychotherapist, to be honest, and she's amazing. She's awesome. I'm dealing with anorexia nervosa, so I'm trying to get my weight back up to reschedule surgery. And in order to do that, my surgeon said that I need to gain like 25 to 30 pounds, which for me is going to be really difficult and daunting. So that's another challenge as well that I'm currently dealing with. But I do have a lot of support through family and just friends that I've met through recovery. And I feel that, just so incredibly blessed and grateful that I have those individuals in my life. Absolutely.
That's awesome. And it definitely helps to have a support system. That is huge. And I know not everyone has that. And so, what would you say to someone who might not have as great of a support system as you do?
Honestly, my best advice, I'm not a medical professional, but what I will say is that going to meetings is like AA or NA, or even if you're not in that classification, if you're not an alcoholic or a substance user, I think, sorry, my gosh, I'm sorry, my words. My gosh, I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. I apologize. I'm not drunk, I swear. But I actually haven't drank since August of last year. So I'm very proud of myself for that. And I'm just really focused right now on getting to where I need to be in the sense of my recovery. And I think that to this individual, in my belief, you should reach out to organizations in your area that can be helpful dealing with certain issues, and also like an outpatient program. Normally they're run by psych facilities, but they're called partial hospital programs, and they've actually been really helpful. So that's the best advice I can give.
Very good. That's awesome. Thank you for that. And so I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about, but you did mention when we first spoke that you were trans.
I am, yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, what has that journey been like on top of, recovery and everything else?
Honestly, it's been extremely interesting. I started hormone replacement in 2012. I wanted to be on, when I was 17, I wanted to be on Lupron really bad, but I know my parents wouldn't have allowed it. It's an injected medication that stops puberty. So I would not have gone through male puberty if that medication were administered to me. And when I was 18, I even joked with my therapist that one day I wanted breast implants at some point. I don't know when, but it was really funny. Because I don't know, I was younger. I was like 18, 19 at the time, and I just sort of joked with her, like, I wish I had bigger boobs. But I don't know, it's kind of inappropriate looking back on it, but we both laughed, I guess. So I guess she wasn't too offended by it. But either way, I feel that it's mental health and working on yourself is really important to build yourself up creatively and spiritually and emotionally.
Definitely. And I'm glad you are doing pretty well with your transition. And definitely, we wish you nothing but the best as you continue the process of transitioning and everything. And one thing that you did touch on was kind of, well, you said it, but we didn't get it. I'm gonna go ahead and get into it a little bit. Is you said spiritual, um, and I think this is another topic that in the LGBTQ community we don't really speak on too much. So, what is your spiritual journey looking like currently? Do you um, settle for like any religion in particular, or what's going on with that?
Honestly, I at one point I used to, but the problem that I've experienced personally, and this is just me, with religion, is that a lot of religion is, I mean, the intentions are great from a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but some individuals do twist, in, for example, Christianity, like the words of the gospel and the Bible, to fit their own antagonistic narrative. And I cannot subscribe to that idea at all. So I have sort of over time just become more spiritual. I mean, I have a higher power that I connect with and I do call God. But at the same time, I am not going to, with all due respect, like not go to any sort of community gathering like a church, especially now, with the pandemic. But even before then, my relationship with my higher power is extremely personal, and I don't. You never know who's sitting next to you, like at church. So that's sort of been my whole experience with it.
That's good. And would you say that spirituality is definitely like one of the main things that you have to have in your life?
Honestly, I wouldn't say that you have to have it. I think that it's important to deal with that, or to deal with the decision making aspect of it. If you want to pursue any sort of religion, if that is something that appeals to you, or you'd rather be, atheist or agnostic, I think that's a very personal decision. That varies, I guess, from individual to individual. But I do think that it can be extremely beneficial in someone's recovery. But again, I'm not a professional, so I can't speak too much on that without going outside of my comfort zone. So,
Definitely. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us on today. Let's see. I'm looking, trying to make sure I touch all the on all the bases here. Well, okay. How about this? ZD REDSPARK. What is something that you would love for people to take away from your music in general?
oh my gosh, that's really hard. It's like such a difficult question to answer, because I think there's a lot of complexity to it. I don't think it's fair. I really don't believe that it's surface level. I think that you can certainly take surface level uh, messages and morals from my music, but I encourage you, as a listener, to dive deeper than that and really get into the abstract, very obscure references that are buried in there. It's almost like a labyrinth of things to explore within the actual, not just a lyrical format, but a lot of the like multisyllabics that are in there. A lot of the references are things that you would really have to dig into, you know, either, sometimes trans culture, sometimes like gaming culture. So it really depends on the certain demographic that's listening in that moment, whatever that moment is. So,
Okay. Cool. And I guess one of my last questions is, well, okay. So normally I try to do every video where I allow the guests to offer one piece of advice to any aspiring artist, um, what would you provide? What would you give as a word of advice to another aspiring artist who might be watching this?
Hmm. I think the best advice I can give is to stay focused on your craft. Find something within yourself to pull out that creativity and that, like, just find inspiration in your life and use that um, to pursue, yourself musically at maybe a higher level than you could before, and really try to build yourself up in whatever that capacity is for you. So I know it's really deep and abstract, but I'm like trying to explain it the best I can, but I'm not entirely sure how. It's really just deep. So
Yeah, no, but that's a great piece of advice. So I do hope that every aspiring artist, or even if you're a current artist watching this, that you can take that advice and definitely move forward and apply it in your own personal journey. So ZD RedSpark, how can people connect with you and follow your musical journey?
um, honestly, oh my god, I'm trying to remember the social media right now.
Okay.
I don't think SoundCloud is ZD RedSpark, and Instagram is I am the audio child. And I think that's all of my socials.
Okay, so Z Red Spark on SoundCloud, and I am the audio child on Instagram. And you
Hmm?
can also check out ZD Red Spark's music on Bandcamp, which is where I listen to it at. And definitely go check out her projects, Cartilage and Insomnia Ballads, both of which I really hope blesses and touches your life, as always. And so I'm gonna go ahead and end it right here. ZD Red Spark, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for reaching out to us, and thank you so much for being a part of the platform. We look forward to seeing more music from you, and we also look forward to hearing more about your personal journey as well.
Right. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I will have ZD Red Sparks information down below in the description box where you can follow her and as well as check out her music. And if you or someone you know is an LGBTQ artist that is just looking for a platform to introduce themselves, definitely hit us up at artistonartistinfo@gmail.com. We are getting better at checking the emails. Oh my goodness, for a long period of time, we weren't checking emails. So sorry, guys. Um, but definitely email us at artistonartistinfo, all lowercase, at gmail.com. Send us your information or send us that person's information, and we will get in contact as quickly as we possibly can. Again, ladies and gentlemen, ZD Red Spark, and thank you all so much for watching this Artist on Artist special, and we look forward to seeing y'all again soon. Have a good night.